Hi, this is Ollie at the Crafty Whisk, and I'm so glad you can join me today. I am participating in a card swap organised by Dawn Lewis at dawnlewis.com. The theme was simply Christmas. The stamp I'm using was from Stamptember, Simon Says stamp, Clearly Besotted-Magical Christmas, and it came with its matching set of dies as well. And this is it here. It was so pretty. All unicorns, something a bit different for Christmas, which I thought was really lovely. And the Stamptember ones you can only get for that month in that year. So here I'm just putting a bit of card in my Misty, and I'm just going to stamp out the unicorns that I'm going to be using for my card. And I'm going to use the one with a little bauble on its nose, and also with the candy cane in its mouth. So I position them where I want them, and then I close the lid, and the lid picks up the stamps for me. And I stamp them out with the Memento ink, which is Copic safe, so the Copics don't bleed through to the ink. And just stamp it down. And this was a new stamp set, so I actually only needed to stamp it the once, which was really good. Sometimes you've got to stamp it twice, which is why I like using the stamp positioning tool. The other good thing with a stamp positioning tool is you can stamp multiple cards at the same time. I'm speeding through the colouring because sometimes people just don't like watching colouring, but if you do like it, then leave me comments and I can slow the colouring down for the next one. The colours I used, the Copic pens, I used V01 and V04, Y02, R14, R29, BG13, BG15, and then to go with them I also used a few Ohuhu pens because I don't have a lot of Copic pens, and they were the RV00, RV160, Y2, and G420. I didn't want the unicorns to be fully saturated in colour, so I used the two pale pinks, which was the RV00 and the RV160 in the Ohuhu, and I just added a little bit of blush around the edges and the shadow lines of the unicorns. And then I used the matching dies to cut them out, and I used my little die cutting machine from Heffy Doodle. I love this little die cutting machine because it is little and it's perfect for doing these small little cuts rather than dragging out the big die cutting machine all the time. And I simply use some low tack tape just to secure the dies down so they don't wriggle. Any low tack tape is fine. You can buy specialty low tack tape or you can use washi tape. Anything that's not going to tear the paper. Just don't use sticky tape because that will tear the paper. And I love using dies because I am terrible at fussy cutting. It takes me forever to do, and my hands just don't like it. So whenever there's matching dies, I tend to buy them. And there's the little machine. See what I mean? It's just so cute. It's worth every penny. And it's not that expensive, and it comes from a company in England called Heffy Doodle. And it's so light and compact, easy to put away. And there's my little unicorns. So cute. I love them. Okay, so now we're moving on to the stenciling. So I've popped it onto my little stencil mat, which is great. It's called a Make Art Stay Station, and it's magnetic. So you pop your card on, then you pop your stencil on, and you pop the magnets on, and your stencil stays in place. It is so helpful. Now the first stencil I'm placing on is a stencil I've had for a long time, so I don't remember where I got it from or the brand. It's just called a Watercolor Stencil, and I'm using Distress Oxides. The first one is Broken China, and I'm just giving a good covering of that. It does need re-inking, which is why I'm having to use so many coats of it. It's in desperate need of re-inking actually, so it doesn't normally take this long to do it, and I've sped it up for you as well. The other colours I'm using are Wilted Violet and Chipped Sapphire. I'm kind of going for a night sky universe kind of effect. So now I'm going in with the Wilted Violet, and I'm staying mainly on the edge and just bringing in a little bit and just blending it through. And I will go a little bit in to the center section as well. And just giving it a little bit of a blend when there's not too much ink left on the brush. The great thing about Oxides is they blend so beautifully together. And now in with the Chipped Sapphire just along the edge, just to give it that darkness that I want for a night sky, but just along the edge. And rather than being a really dark blue, it just makes the violet pop into a dark purple. And then I go back in with the Broken China just to make it a little bit lighter and to blend it through. Now what I'm going to do is leave that stencil in place and pop another stencil on top. Now this stencil is from Stencibelle, which is a cookie stencil company, because in my old life I used to be a cake decorator and I've still got the stencils hanging around. It's a stencil you can no longer buy. I think it was called Hanging Hearts, and they have a new stencil out which is similar. And I am using a paste from Lawn Fawn. It's called Fairy Dust Stencil Paste, and it gives a really nice glitter, and it's three-dimensional, so it will stand up off your card a little bit, and it gives a really nice fairy dust kind of a pop. So it'll look like little hanging hearts in the night sky, which I thought would pair beautifully with unicorns. So you scrape the excess off, pop it back into the container, make sure you wipe off your spatula straight away, and also wipe off your stencil straight away, because the stuff is like glue. Once it's dried, it's dried. It's permanent. But make sure you clean it off your project. So take it off to the side and do it. It's best to do it under in a sink with some warm water, but for the sake of television, I'm just doing it with a baby wipe. And this is the effect you get. Isn't that gorgeous? So now you've got to leave that off to the side for about an hour or so for that to dry. And now I'm just using Catherine Pooler ink, and the ink is Queen for a Day, and I'm just stamping out the sentiment, which is Have a Magical Christmas. And I didn't want to go for black because I thought it would be too stark, so I've gone for their nice deep purple. And the colours in the Catherine Pooler inks are so vibrant and beautiful. They're really gorgeous. And I'm just going to trim that down to the size I want it to be. And then once that's trimmed down, I don't like white edges, so I'm just going to gently tap the edges onto the ink pad, and that just gives it a finished look, I suppose, for want of a better term. Just gives a little edge. So rather than layering up more and more card, I do that sometimes. Just gives it a little bit of a finished look without adding bulk. So now this has actually had a bit of a time to dry, and I'm going to use some foam tape. I think it's about 2 or 3 millimeters thick. I'm just going to pop it onto the back of the unicorns and also on the back of the sentiment strip. And I'm going to place them where I want them. One thing I didn't explain earlier, with the idea with card swaps or card front swaps, which is what Dawn Lewis organises, and go and have a look at her shop. It's absolutely fantastic, and if she doesn't have an item in stock, she can more than likely order it in for you. She's absolutely wonderful. We only card swap the front of cards, so we don't do a whole card. We just do the front, and we send off 8, and we get 8 completely different card fronts back, which then we can attach to a card and send off as cards ourselves, or I like to actually keep them because I like seeing other people's ideas, and it's really great. And Dawn organises these, and I think she does about 6 throughout the year. The previous one we did was Bookmark, which was great. It was so much fun to do and so much fun to see everyone's different ideas. Really, really cool. And this one being Christmas, I thought, I'm not going to do traditional Christmas. I thought, no, let's have a bit of fun. Why not? Life's too short. So I'm just having a bit of a play with where I want them. So I made 8 of these. Oh, no, actually I made 9 because I liked it so much I kept one. And then I'm a bit fussy. I like my sentiments to be straight. So I got out my T-ruler, made sure that it was straight because my eye line isn't great and things tend to go wonky. And then one of the finishing touches I'm going to do is pop on some glossy accents. And this is a 3-dimensional gloss. So I'm popping it onto the unicorn's horns and onto the apple and the candy cane. And when this dries, it forms a 3-dimensional glossy bit of pop, I suppose you could call it. It's really nice on spectacles, glasses, all that kind of thing. And now for the final touch, I'm adding some liquid pearls, or perfect pearls, sorry. These are from Ranger. It's a powder, and I just pop some into a little squirt bottle of water, and then from a distance I give it a good 3 squirts, and it's really hard to pick up on screen, but it adds a very, very, very fine mist of glitter, I suppose, or sparkle, and it just adds to the whole unicorn theme. Isn't that gorgeous? I think so. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.